Welcome to AMS Talks. I'm joined by Rick Bacon, CEO of Aquametrology Systems. Today he'll be talking with us about innovations in arsenic removal treatment technologies and why it might just be time to finally implement a more stringent federal standard for this carcinogenic contaminant. Rick, in 2001, the EPA set the arsenic standard for drinking water at 10 ppb. This decision was made by balancing the current understanding of arsenic's potential health effects against the cost of removing the contaminant with what are known as best available technologies. Can you explain a bit about best available technologies for arsenic treatment and why a new innovative system is poised to displace these traditional systems?
Sure, Carter, thanks very much. It's good to be back with you. So yes, we need to set this in the context of the perspective of the health authorities, experts, who consider that we should have the lowest level possible of arsenic in drinking water. So 10 ppb is more than the minimum level. However, getting to whatever level of arsenic that's present depends on treatment technology. And back 20 years ago, it's hard to believe it was 20 years ago, the best available technologies involved chemical dosing and very complex processes and very expensive. So they set the limit at 10 ppb. Subsequently, a new technology emerged in 2006 based on iron oxide, which is an absorbent. So it basically absorbed the arsenic, so a much cheaper process than the traditional process that had been established as best available technology. And that has essentially taken over the market. However, it can only economically reduce the presence of arsenic to something less, slightly less than 10 ppb in order for the systems to be compliant. Now we know that it should be much lower. In fact, New Jersey, New Hampshire have moved to a limit of 5 ppb. Still high compared to negligible levels of arsenic, but it's moving in the right direction. And we've developed a system called Safeguard H2O, which is based on a different technology, still absorption, but much more effective absorption, which can remove the presence of arsenic down to levels well below 5 ppb at a fraction of the cost of the traditional BAT, best available technology, which was based on iron oxide.
Well, thank you for that insight about arsenic treatment options, but I am interested to know a little bit about the economic perspective. How do these various technologies compare?
So you've always got to look at two things. There's the capital cost, the stuff you put on site, and then there's the operating cost. So the advantage of iron oxide compared to the traditional system that preceded it was that it was much lower capital cost. However, it had has a very high operating cost relative to the capital cost, several factors times the original capital cost, because that media, with the absorbent, has to be thrown away eventually because it gets saturated with the arsenic. Now, if you lower the limit, that means the more arsenic has to be removed, and therefore this absorbent is going to have to be replaced more frequently in order to do its job. And that drives up this operating cost relative to the capital cost. Already high, now even higher. And the joy of the Safeguard H2O system is that you can constantly reuse the absorbent, recycle it. So there isn't the same level of wastage. It lasts for much longer. And therefore, not only is it a much more cost effective from a capital point of view, but also the operating costs in relative terms are also much lower when you want to achieve levels of arsenic well below 5 ppb.
So how do these technologies then compare when it comes to industrial treatment?
Well, the same sort of rule of thumb applies. Yeah, industrial treatment is generally starting with a much higher level of arsenic that has to be removed. And the cost is always a function of how much arsenic has to be removed for a given volume of waste. So everything that told against the original best available technology that then favored iron oxide now falls in favor of the Safeguard H2O system, because both from a capital point of view as well as an operating cost point of view, is much, much more economic. It's much easier to control. It's a fully integrated treatment system that will serve both very large industrial sites as well as small communities of a few hundred people.
Very interesting. Well, one final question, Rick. In 2018, the World Health Organization cited that every effort should be made to keep arsenic concentrations as low as reasonably possible and below the guideline of 10 ppb when resources are available. It has been nearly 20 years since the arsenic standard was put into place, and the regulation remains the same despite evidence that innovations in arsenic removal technologies have drastically reduced the cost of removing arsenic. Do you feel that water systems are able to receive affordable arsenic removal treatment even for considerably safer levels, well below 5 ppb?
Absolutely. We've done a lot of work to prove that we can virtually eliminate the presence of arsenic at a very economic cost compared to the alternative technologies, which would struggle even to get down to those levels. So, yeah, there is no argument, technically and economically now, not to have an arsenic regulatory limit, which is well below 3 ppb, certainly well below where it is today. The technology is available, it's proven, and it would do a lot for human health to virtually eliminate arsenic from the water that many people have is exposed to with arsenic.
Well, clearly it's time we take advantage of these innovations.
Well, I hope so. We've been working very hard at this. We've got lots of proof, both in the field and the laboratory, that this technology is very effective, very reliable, and we're starting to roll it out. So, yep, we're moving forward.
Good to hear. Thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Carla.